Good evening, how are you? A few thoughts on governance. What is it? What what is its limitations and what is its scope of influence? What is it to bring a change and uh, how possible is it to bring a change? And is it even necessary? Is it practical to bring a change? I've been looking at nation states and how they are constructed, how they come to being, uh, how they continue to survive, how they thrive, and how they fall apart. If we look at its core, any nation state is made up of the military. It's essentially a military industrial complex. Okay. The military covers also its other wing, which is an intelligence wing. In other countries, it may include the FBI or the CIA in the case of the United States. In the case of Britain, we can talk about the monarchy, the MI6. The monarchy just covers also even the military. So you see that democracy, the institution of democracy, of voting for leaders, is not in the top echelon of any state. The voting process, which involves the majority of the people, is something which is maybe second or third tier in the level of hierarchy. At the top is the military, the police, and the intelligence, who essentially are the state. How they are formed varies. Usually it is through military conquest. Okay. Conquering who? Conquering whoever was residing in that land. The Americans invaded or took over from the American Indians through a war. And even today's America became what it is through a war of a rebellion against the British. And even African countries, look at Zimbabwe, got its independence through a war, fighting the British imperial powers. Therefore, the state of Zimbabwe was established through a military mechanism, because the same mechanism existed before. Ian Smith's government had its own military, its own intelligence, okay, that was upholding the state, its own police. Sometimes these countries are called military states or police states. It's exactly the same thing, or surveillance state. All of these things are the same things. They are the founding principles of any nation. These are the things that we cannot run away from. So I'm trying to establish the limitations of forcing a change in a nation. You're going to be limited by the fact that the nation that you are in is led by the military, the intelligence, and the police, and that is a fundamental truth in all nations. If you're going to effect a change in your nation, you need to understand that and get over it. You are not going to fight the military and win. You are not going to fight the intelligence or the police and win. Something that Chamisa must learn. What you do is you actually have to engage with them. You should be part of that ecosystem. If you're not part of that ecosystem, you cannot win on this lower tier of the politics of elections, because elections is organized, monitored, and made to succeed by the military, which is the army, the police, and the intelligence in any country. the ability of democracy to be sustained is through those organs that I'm telling you about. You see, those organs can be made of any people, whether the people that get there through conquest or through financial influence or whatever influence. It doesn't really matter. It varies country by country. But at the end of the day, it is those people that control those departments that are usually rich. Not usually, always are the richest, because the billionaires, in order for them to protect their wealth, they need a military. Okay, that is where it starts. When billionaires, very rich people, need to protect their wealth, they need a military, and in order to police their people, they need a police, and they need the intelligence, and therefore they need to govern their people. So as they govern their people, they establish what they call a country, what they call a nation, and then to appease the members of that nation. So the people of that nation, which by the way, that nation is actually formed because of a business. In Zimbabwe, it was formed first of all by Cecil John Rhodes through the British South African Company. You see, it's a business. Billionaire Cecil John Rhodes and the British South African what? Company. It's a business. So the company had what? Soldiers, military. Understand? The company had what? Police. So what they do is, after subduing the Ndebelés, they form a what? A government. So that the people that work for the company, both the whites and the blacks, become part of what we call a country or nation, Rhodesia. So Rhodesia, or just like any other country, is birthed out of a business interest. That is what it is with all countries. So I need us to lay that foundation of understanding first before we will build on into some a better society. So we need to understand that that is what every society is made up of. Every country is a business enterprise, one way or the other. To understand, which is won through conquest and monitored through the state apparatus like the intelligence, the police, and the army. That is a standard. And so I'm saying this so that we can understand that as we go for elections, you cannot go for elections and be against the army, the police, and the intelligence and think that you're going to win. You do not win. The system was not designed like that. The part of the electioneering is supposed to be made up of political parties that all adhere to the principles of country. And if they all adhere to the principles of country, those that lead at the higher echelons there in the military, police, and intelligence, they do not mind who wins the election, because it doesn't matter. They've got total control on all of them. They've got their levers covered on all of these people. So at the end of the day, democratic countries that excel in their democracies are those that they've got a firm hold on all the parties that compete in the elections, and therefore they are not terrified as to who is going to lead. But nations that have not understood that, you will discover that their electioneering is very hard to maintain, because they have not that yoke hasn't hardened at the top. There is no complete center that holds in that nation, or even if there is, they haven't really understood the fact that they really need to clean up their democracy. Well, and then I discovered this treasure that is happening in other countries, that I think is the same thing that's happening in ours. That sometimes the people that run those uh, fundamental institutions on top think that it is good for democracy to fail. For example, you would have oppositions that are genuinely against whoever is leading, supported by the people who genuinely want a change, and those people get suppressed, and those oppositions get suppressed, At the same time, those oppositions are actually not sincere. They're actually not opposing. They are actually part and part of the same institution, but they masquerade as something that is opposing. To understand, when they're actually not 100% opposing, but they're just there to uh, to lie to the people, so that the people might have this expectation of a change, thinking that we've got a direction which we're going to. But even the leaders of that opposition know very well that they are not intending to win, they are not going to win. They will appear like they want to win, and then they will lose an election, and they will say it was rigged, and there will be violence. Then the cycle carries on and on. Then this whole idea is to disenfranchise the rest of the population, which is a bad advice to those that actually run the top institutions, because you do not want to run a country that has got disenfranchised people. You see, the United Kingdom is successful, it's successful for centuries because it is not based on running a kingdom on disenfranchised people. It tries by all means to enfranchise its own citizens. You understand? As I said, that any country is a business organization. If you're a business, you want to take good care of your workers so that they can come and work for you again tomorrow, so that they do not disrupt the business that you are running. So every country is a business. And you are not told these things. These are things that you only hear on the channel. You're not told on TV because that's not how it works. You are told it's a country. But it's not a country, it's a business. There's no country in the world. All countries are businesses, one way or the other. So a country falls or a business falls when its relationship with workers deteriorates. And I'm afraid that there's countries which I don't want to mention, countries that are losing that grip on its people. When your people do not support you anymore, what you do, the only way you do it is you actually bring that opposing or that opposition under your auspices, so that you are not afraid of the opposition taking hold. You're not afraid of the opposing candidate to win, so that your people will be appeased, so that the people in the nation will be happy and think that, oh, things are now okay, and then they rest. When they rest, the business of the country continues. You understand? Because a country is a business model. But if your business model is not shown so well that the triumph of the people means a loss in your business, it means you really need to go back and strategize and relook at your model country. What kind of a country am I building? Do you understand? Because I've seen that if you look around, around all the nations, uh, you will see that the success of their economy means the success of their businesses. And all of those big businesses, whether they are in banking industry, finance industry, which is insurance, or the military industrial complex, the medical field, or tech sector, all of those sectors are actually owned by the rich people that own the country, so to speak. So as the economy improves, as their businesses make money, them, the billionaires, make more money as the economy improves. So the billionaires want their company, the country's economy to improve because that country is actually their business. Now it is the same thing everywhere, but the others they have actually got it together. Like the Americans, they really strive to keep their economy afloat. And then we have other countries like Zimbabwe, who also are a business, just like all the other countries. But they haven't figured it out how to come up with a business model that works. In Zimbabwe, you will say that the oligarchs of Zimbabwe, another word that they use is the oligarchs. But the Americans don't call themselves oligarchs. They might have what they call the plutocrats, but they don't use that word a lot. they use the word oligarchs for Russians or for other Soviet countries, other billionaires in Soviet countries. We do have them in Zimbabwe as well. There's billionaires in Zimbabwe. Most of them, so-called ZANU-PF people or ZANU-PF enablers or stuff like that. Whether you like it or not, they are, so to speak, the shareholders of the country of Zimbabwe. They are sort of got like owners. I know you're gonna say no one owns me, no one owns the country, but the reality is there is owners. Okay, those so-called Taquarians, whoever they are, and the many others, whether you like it or not, so to speak, they are actually the owners. When they come together, they are the owners, you see. So now their business, which is Zimbabwe, actually, for it to strive and last longer, to survive, understand, it has to do certain things that have got to do with empowering people. But because their business is struggling so much right now, they have to cut workers by giving people passports to go outside the country, by disenfranchising the people in the country. They believe that that is how they can survive. So when you see in the mining industry, almost all of the mining concessions are given to the military or people that are connected to ZANU-PF. And anything else that is a business that seems to be making money, it is taken away from the ordinary person and taken by the mafia state. They believe that is how they can sustain their business of the country, but that is actually unsustainable. That is going to crash very soon. So I do have advice on how that can actually be helped, how you can actually salvage the situation. But you have to watch the next video to know what I'm thinking.